Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session. Today is October 10. I am recording this so that our lessons will still continue without me appearing virtually via our Zoom or Google Meet. I don't know if I have mentioned that today I am attending a conference of the PAFTE, Philippine Association of Faculty of Teacher Education. And conflict siya sa schedule, so I'm just recording our discussion for today. So this is ELT 4005, Principles, Methods, and Materials in ELT. Alright, so for the past Saturdays, you were given activities and tasks, no? About the philosophies of language and second language teaching, the nature, we discussed about the nature of language, the definition of language and language learning. And the first thing that I'd like to ask today is, how do children acquire knowledge? Acquire language, I mean. So a lot of theories have emerged regarding the acquisition of language. And according to this source, the stages of language development, especially for first language acquisition, begins with a child 6 to 8 months. No? There is babbling, the repetitive CV patterns, no? Mama, consonant and vowel sound, ma, da, la, ma. Okay. And then by 9 to 18 months, there is one word stage, single open class word or word stems. So there is, this is called the holophrastic stage. Then by 18 to 24 months, two-word stage. That is the stage, and the definition is there are now mini sentences. This is now, the child now is a year old, a year plus old. So there is simple semantic relations. Drink milk. So there is the verb, and then there is the object. No, drink milk. And then by 24 to 30 months, this is called the telegraphic stage, because the sentences, the sentence structure of lexical is there already. However, the grammatical morphemes are not very correct yet. No? Sometimes, namingon nga, kalabi na in English good. I goed there. So, wala pa kaayo ang structure. No? Alright, 30 plus months, this is now the latter multi-word stage, okay, or later multi-word stage. Grammatical or functional structures emerge, okay. So the acquisition of grammatical elements and corresponding structure over a year to a year and a half, sentences get longer. So of course, magkadako ang bata, magka-learn gina siya to talk. And the sentences are not anymore telegraphic, dili bitaw word per word per word. There is already structure. Grammatical elements are less often omitted and less often inserted incorrectly, and multiple clause sentences become common. So about the age of 2, children first begin to use grammatical elements. So nanay mga is and was, there is already a clarity of when to use is, when to use was. Kung past tense, di na siya was yesterday, was Friday. I ate bacon. Ano? Kaya sabihin, I eated. Murag nagkahinay-hinay na siya og correct. Right. And then we have here, often morphological inflections include a regular case, walk, walked, open, opened, and some irregular or exceptional cases like go, the past tense is went, throw, threw, no? So in the beginning, such words will be used in their root form. As inflections first start being added, both regular and irregular patterns are found. At a certain point, it is common for children to overgeneralize the regular case. So producing forms like bringed, like goed, bringed, I bringed it here, bisag brought, diba? No, goed, muna akong example earlier. At this stage, the child's speech may actually become less correct by adult standards than it was earlier because of over-realization. So this over-realization, like most other aspects of children's developing grammar, is typically resistant to correction. So the child will say, my teacher holded the baby rabbits and we patted them. Did you say your teacher held the baby rabbits? Yes. What did you say she did? She holded. So pareha na gihapon, no? Ang gisulti niya earlier, my teacher holded. Gi-correct sa adult niya, holded gid gihapon. Did you say she held them tightly? No, she holded them. So di gid siya, no? So the resistance siya to correction. Okay. Now, last Saturday, I think I uploaded a mixed up nga material, but now I have corrected the material being uploaded. I asked you to give examples, no, by explaining all these through examples. So these are some of the theories of language acquisition. How do we acquire language? And when we say acquire, we have learned that it's different from learning. So learning a language is a conscious effort. Acquiring a language is a subconscious effort. No? So here are some theories. There is the theory of imitation, nativism or behaviorism, the theory of innateness, no? The theory of cognition, the theory of connectionism. So these slides are already uploaded for last Saturday, and I'm just copying it here to review. So we have here from B.F. Skinner. He is really into the stimulus response feedback reinforcement pattern. According to him, language, kuno gyud, is actually behavioral in nature. There is conditioned behavior. There is the stimulus response process. And by virtue of imitation, students or a child learn the language. No? So, according to him, naa siya behavior patterns. For example, every time a mother or a father would say, peekaboo, and then mulili dayon sa pillow or mo kana bitang mo surprise sa child, the child will imitate such behavior. Peekaboo, then the child will also move its head, no, trying to look for the father nga naghide. So there is behavior. Imitation of the language will follow. So from imitation, repetition, there is memorization, control drilling, and then reinforcement. Another theory is the theory of nativism or the innate theory. So ang sikat gyud ani diring dapita si Noam Chomsky, and if you remember, Noam Chomsky is really the proponent for the LAD. Unsa tong LAD? Language Acquisition Device. And according to Chomsky, children has a capacity good. No, we have a built-in device in our brain solely responsible for the learning of language. So his main argument is children must be born with an innate capacity for language development. So maka-acquire ra gyud itag language because our brains are wired in such a way that we can acquire the language because we have this device. So muna iyahang innateness theory. So, according to him, the human brain is ready naturally for language in the sense when children are exposed to speech, certain general principles for discovering or structuring language automatically begin to operate. So, mura bitaw siya og kanang machine in our brain, nga gamay nga box nga. Once ma-introduce siya sa language, mura siya mo spark nga, pak, diretso dahil siya develop. Okay, that is his theory. Now, there is also the theory of input. No? Parents do not talk to their children in the same way they talk to other adults and seem to be capable of adapting their language to give the child maximum opportunity to interact and learn. Okay? So the utterances of the parents are considerably and subconsciously simplified, especially with respect to grammar and meaning, and sentences are shorter. So, just like when you talk to our kids, no, kana preschool teacher karon, you don't talk straight English. Diretso ka nga, okay, I'd like you to listen carefully to this story because later I'm going to ask questions. You don't say that to kids, no? Labi ng gagmay. I observe, ako yung gi-observe na ko ang kanang preschool teacher nga online ba ta karon, no? So, okay, everyone, hinay yun good, no? Shake up, put your hand up, kanang the way we input, no, the way we talk is really different, obviously, because we understand the nature of children. We understand that they do not understand right away, and they cannot be treated like adults, especially when we talk, no? All right. So we go to second language acquisition. So kanipud si Krashen is also very, very famous, or iyaha gyud ning tawag ani iyaha gyud ning siya gyud nakatag-iya aning naan siya 5 hypotheses. So what are these 5 hypotheses of Krashen? So according to Krashen, a child or a student can learn second language or acquire second language via the 5 theories niya or hypotheses niya. What are these? We have acquisition learning hypothesis, the natural order hypothesis, the monitor hypothesis, input hypothesis, and affective filter hypothesis. So, this is also very important kay daghan kay kog na come across nga mga researches, especially kanang padung mo graduate na bitog masteral nya, kanang mupili sila ani nya, mo bank on din sila aning any of these hypotheses. You can also get an idea, no, from these hypotheses, maybe na kay problem that you would like to explore, that might be your thesis nya, mo bank on ka sa kang Stephen Krashen's hypotheses kaniyang second language acquisition. I had the chance to really meet Stephen Krashen. Buhi pa in taon ni si Stephen Krashen. He is, I think, karon 90 plus years old na siya. And I think 5 years ago, he went to the Philippines. Unya, what was good was that instead of Manila man to originally ang conference on language, gi-change niya iyahang decision, ari siya Cebu. So I grabbed the opportunity that was, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. He had a conference, unya ako gina siyang na-meet gyud, as in kanang nagdungan gyud mig dinner because I was part of the team nga nag-organize ani nga conference. So he is a very humble man. Yeah, makaingon ka ba, grabe no, he is a proponent of a lot of kuan baya gyud linguistic theories. Unya nindot kay siya ika-istorya. He is very active in Facebook actually, no? Nya, if you just message him or reply gud siya. Nya, siya gud ang mo reply, dili gud ingon ba nga naa siya assistant to do the reply. Siya gud mo reply nimo nya. Kuan kayo first hand basis jud kayo. Dear Janet, ana ka na pina-close gud ba? Okay, let's go now. Acquisition learning hypothesis. Now, language acquisition, as mentioned earlier, is an unconscious process, no? Of process developed through using language meaningfully. It's different from language learning because, again, it's conscious effort. So language acquisition is the only way competence in a second language can develop. So klaro naman na, no, when we say acquisition, we subconsciously and unconsciously acquire it. If we say learning, we have to put in effort. So yang theory is, there is a difference between acquisition and learning. So if you want your child to learn a second language, you have to put in effort. You have to put in conscious kanina ang mga manners or conscious steps to make sure that a child learns the second language. Now, this acquisition-focused approach sees communicative competence progressing through 3 stages. The oral comprehension, meaning makadungog, no? Second, early speech production, makafollow through vocals. And number 3, the third stage is speech activities, wherein mo foster na naturally ang second language. So, following an initial silent period, no, comprehension should precede production in speech, as the latter should be allowed to emerge in natural stage of progression. So first, maminaw sa gyud. So how difficult could it be, no, for kanang mga deaf and mute ba, no? Kay maglisod ba sila paminaw. So naapoy challenge dihang dapita. Okay. Another hypothesis of Stephen Krashen is his natural order hypothesis. According to him, ingon siya, natural order is found in both acquisition of children and adults. So in cases of language 2 or the second language, natural order exists regardless of the acquirers. acquirers of language 1. Later, the findings show that this hypothesis is valid for another language acquisition as well. So, meaning, flow siya naturally ba? Like first, we don't learn idioms right away, or we don't learn kanibang mga higher complex part of the language. We first learn nouns. Sunod, verbs. Diba when we were in grade 1, tudloan gyud tag nouns, verbs. So, naa siya natural order, no? So, what is the implication for teaching on this hypothesis? According to Krashen, lots of grammar programs are based on whether the points covered are easy or difficult for the teacher to formulate, rather than on whether they are easy or difficult for the learner to acquire. So, meaning to say, kana na ang as a teacher, no, we have to make sure that we formulate grammatical lessons nato, no, knowing that kanina ang looking into the acquisition natural order, no, ingon siya nga kanina ang the natural order hypothesis, meaning some structures are acquired earlier and some later. Okay. The third hypothesis is the monitor. Kani siyang monitor hypothesis of Krashen explains a relationship between acquisition and learning. So the acquisition is the utterance initiator, while the learning systems perform the role of the monitor or the editor. Para bitaw anang naasa di siya kana bitaw may kag over monitor, no, kana bitaw na mga tao nga gabi kay siya ba mo iyag bitaw itali wrong grammar, wrong pronunciation. So sometimes there are people who are considered monitor overusers, no? They tend to attempt to monitor all the time. Nga, halo, isakto ba ni akong gisulti? Kanang, kabantay mo when we were in high school, ato Italy, no? Maglinya-linya ta ba? Ala, kahon. Kapila yun ingon si ma'am, okay. Now, okay. Linya. So, nahimo na taan ng monitor overusers. There's also monitor under users. These are learners who prefer not to use their conscious knowledge. No, kanang di lang kay sila mo monitor in terms of correctness, basta kay ni flow lang gid lang fluency and communicate lang gid sila. Now, optimal monitor users are learners who use the monitor appropriately. So therefore, among the three, ari gyud ta sa di gyud ta ganahan sa over, di sa gyud ta ganahan sa under, kadto gyud tang sakto lang yang optimal at its maximum level lang pod. According to Krashen, the role of the monitor is or should be minor. So di lang kay ta over monitor gyud. Now, I believe that 2 Saturdays ago I asked you what is more important. Is it accuracy or fluency? And then there were a few of you who answered, "Ma, mas important gyud ang accurate because unsaon man nimo nang fluent kay ikaw nya nagkatuad-tuali di ay imong accuracy." Na pwede ingon nga fluency good because the accuracy will just follow. So, in the monitor hypothesis, dili ang balance, no? Because you are accurate at the same time you can be fluent, no? The fourth hypothesis is the input. So, muna siya ito I plus 1. Input plus 1. An important condition for language to occur is that the acquirer understand, no, via hearing or reading, input language that contains structure a bit beyond his or her current level of competence. So, mura bito siya a little bit difficult next time. Maragin ana ba? Because, for example, in grade 1, we introduce simple structures, onya, simple po ang atong vocabulary, but in grade 2, ato man gyud siyang plus 1. Ato man yung adan og gamay difficulty. Plus 1 na po ini ka grade 3. Plus 1 na po. So, meaning to say, the existing knowledge plus 1, that is input hypothesis. So, there is what we call comprehensible input. So, the formula for comprehensible input is I, small letter, plus 1, meaning masabtan niya the original schema, the I, plus a difficult level, muna siya, according to Krashen, the input hypothesis. Now, Krashen suggests that natural communicative input is a key to designing a syllabus. Communicative language teaching approach, cooperative learning approach, mo scaffold ka, no? Michael Long takes up where in a sense Krashen left off. So gikan din ingon din si Michael Long, he says that what has come to be called the interaction hypothesis, that comprehensive input is the result of modified interaction. So katong plus one, a little bit difficulty in ang level, plus naa kay modification in terms of the interaction. So imong palisdan gamay, because of course, how can a person learn a second language or acquire a second language kung sige ra gyud siya balik-balik, he, she, imo jung punan, no? Pareha bito anang kabaw naman kadihang dapita, sige mo higher level ta. So input hypothesis. The last of his second language acquisition hypothesis is the affective filter. So unsam sa ni siyang affective filter? This is one of the things I like. Ganahan kay ko ani affective filter because this has something to do with the feelings or attitude, no? Nga ibutang nimo ang child in a situation where there is unsa man ang affective, di ba? Psychomotor, cognitive, dapat affective. So something to do with the feelings, the attitude, the environment, no? The ambience. So there are three kinds of affective or attitudinal variables related to second language acquisition according to Richard and Rogers, with basis to Krashen's hypothesis. Yun sila, the motivation should be high, the self-confidence should be high, but the anxiety should be low. Meaning, the language teacher, should make sure that the motivation to learn the second language is high. She or the teacher must make sure that the students are given self-confidence. You can do it. Kanang imo gyud siyang i-cheer up to be able to learn the second language, and you create a scenario or a classroom setting that makes the anxiety low. Dili sila mahadlok naman ko mo in English. Okay, si ma'am kanang mo manghiwi man dayon or kanang mo yung wrong grammar. Oy, bati kaayo na, no, in terms of affective filter. So meaning to say, ang kaning hypothesis ni Krashen, he mentioned that learners with a low affective filter, high motivation, high self-confidence, good image, and a low level of anxiety are better equipped for successful second language acquisition. Learners with high affective filter, meaning low ilang self-esteem, high kay ang level of anxiety, mahadlok, ma-mental block ba yan na? Nunya, mahadlok na din mong in English. For example, learning a second language that is English. When the affective filter is high, it blocks language acquisition. Low affective filter is desirable. So, meaning to say, proven na gyud ni siya. However, kung ganahan pa gyud mo nga i-further pa gyud in your own context, pwede gyud mo maghimog research about this. Nga tan-aw nimo no student A in classroom A, imo sang i-establish of what kind of classroom climate there is, no? Low ba ang affective filter? High ba ang motivation? Yan na po tayo test to do that. So there is a test for motivation, there is a test for self-esteem. Yan imo na siyang i-correlate. Nindot sa na siya nga study. Alright, so the strengths of affective filter hypothesis. Teachers try to reduce learners' negative feelings. So, imo yung i-make sure ba nga kuan kay sila, they are comfortable to speak the second language, nga dili lang po di mo i-judge nga, hoy, wrong grammar, hoy, wrong pronunciation. Di po maayo, no? Learners can have higher competence when they receive comprehensible input in low stress conditions, no? Although very, very few na ay mga bata nga ganahan sad sila nga murag ma-anxiety sila, pero generally, mas nindot man gyud ang climate nga free bitaw ta, no? Di kita mahadlok ba para we can be ourselves and we can express ourselves. Okay, so we end our session with that. Just to remind everyone with our schedule, next Saturday will be synchronous. Karon synchronous man sad taron in a way, no, because recorded lang pud siya. And then the Saturday after next will be asynchronous in preparation for our midterm on October 31. So what will be our midterm? Our midterm will be given via our Google Classroom. You can answer it within the time frame ra gyud nga 3 to 6 p.m. So anyway, we will still meet next Saturday so I can explain further your the coverage for the midterm and as well as the conduct of this midterm exam. All right, so for today, we end our session. Hopefully, there is something that you can take away from this recorded video, recorded discussion. Try to check our Google Classroom for your task related to our discussion today. See you, and thank you for understanding that I cannot be with you virtually today due to the PAFTE conference. God bless everyone and continue to keep safe.